other places and with us. Good morning. It's a nice day, and off we go. It has been shown that a quorum is present, and therefore we will proceed. See here, Inspire Award. Board, first. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, sir. So I'm real happy to present Rick Turnbull. Stand up. Generally shy. With this Inspire Award, Rick runs the recycling program for the Midshore counties for MES, has done so for several years. But Rick has a long career in the natural resources industry. So when we lost the landfill generator at Easton Utilities because of gas yields, that's what happens with landfills over time. Usually those landfills the yield on the landfill gas will diminish to the point where it's difficult to run large-scale generators with those things. Rick went out and researched on his own and came up with an alternative to produce electricity there. It's small, but it's an interesting unit, Stirling engine, gas. It doesn't require any treatment for that gas. Again, while it's small, it generates about 5.6 kilowatts of energy. It'll end up saving us about $4,200 a year, and we'll be able to generate some energy. Certainly, we can continue to generate electricity, which is, in my mind at least, period flaring the gas. This is a little more productive use. We're in the middle of the pilot right now. All indications are it's working great. Continue this thing after the 90-day trial. So congratulations, Rick.
Shoot, I forgot to bring the things down. Hold on. Keep talking, Tim.
No. We'll bring you back up the picture and everything else.
MES is that we find ways to help people succeed. And that's the nature of the award that we're giving to my training manager, Greg Wilkinson, this morning. An operator here, to be a licensed operator at MES, you go through 3 years of on-the-job training. You get 4 manuals about the size of this book. I'm only a few pages into mine right now, but and the exams associated with the studies. Greg saw that our operators in training were struggling with the math portions of the exam.
I don't need to go to the gym tonight.
And we're
sorry.
Greg saw that the OSEs were struggling with the math portion of the exam. He did something about it. He designed a math course for the OIT. And did an excellent job. Actually put a lot of his own personal time into doing it. And as a result of Greg's work, between April and June of this year, we saw an over 80% increase in the pass rate for the exam. So Greg, thank you. Greg, thank you personally for your dedication to our OIT program and for inspiring us today.
The last is first. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
I don't know how to sleep.
There I am. So this is for you. This one to show everybody that you actually did it.
Okay. Very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
I had a chair.
All right. No, you got it. Okay, you got it. Go on.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank everyone.
I don't know what's in it, but I think it's something good. Thank you. Good job. Thank you, sir. I want to get one of those for my house.
Produce a lot of gas?
Okay. Next matter is the approval of the minutes of 25 August 2022, which has been distributed to the members of the board. Is there any matter or question or? Okay, therefore it is approved. It does not need a specific amount of people, as long as we have a quorum, which we do, and therefore it is now approved. Now, it's your turn, sir.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, everyone. Next slide. As you can see, Deputy Fakek and I had no purchase card or cash expenses last month. We did attend the Tri-Association Conference, and so it's just the timing of when those receipts will be processed, and they should be on our next board report. Next slide. It didn't seem like the 4 weeks were that busy, but it turned out there were just a ton of contacts and a ton of smaller meetings at Tri-Conference Association, and there were a lot of contacts with state agencies. And the interesting thing to note, state agencies, utilities, and counties. A great meeting Deputy Peck and I had with the DPW director in Anne Arundel County, Department of Public Works, discussing all the growth that they plan on having over the next few years. And then also a very interesting meeting with the Kansas Department of Transportation. So particularly for Secretary Neal, I have a former colleague from MDOT that now works for the National Governors Association, and he has been explaining the model of MES to other states, particularly states with departments of transportation that have difficulty processing federal grants. So federal grants and monies and how they distribute to their counties and jurisdictions. And so he explained that model to the Secretary of Transportation, and she reached out for a one-on-one. So I briefed her on MES and everything we do. And then I had two trips. I don't know if we got slides, but I took one trip with the Critical Area Commission, and then there's a selfie from actually yesterday, knocking past the water treatment and wastewater treatment plant. Actually, I saw, did the reverse osmosis membranes make the cut? I don't know if they made the slides. So on the fly, Ms. Fuller and Mrs. Leach and I, I sent that picture. That's great, but we have had a new replacement of the reverse osmosis membranes that treat the water for that facility. So those membranes remove total dissolved solids, TDS, and fluoride from saline water underneath that plant. And the membranes actually had lasted 12 years, and the normal replacement time is 6 years. So a double of the useful life. Now, that is because it has a lot of redundancy. They don't use all of the membranes full bore every day, but it is an example of a great use and balance of a resource, the capital resource of those expensive membranes. That's the whole team. So I got there at 9:30, and they didn't know they'd be done with the installation of the membranes. So they were like, we're not going to have time for them and everything else. But we all sat in the conference room and talked for a good 2 hours. Lots of great feedback, and it was a great visit. Next slide. TriCon. So from August 30th through September 2nd, approximately 14 of us from MES attended the Chesapeake Tri-Association Summer Conference. MES, for the first time in 4 years approximately, participated in some of the professional challenges at the conference. but we plan to participate even more fully and go back to having a team that Deputy Furketic used to be the coach and leader of this team, and they were both regionally and nationally recognized as a superior group of operators. So they did compete in the meter challenge. We saw some examples of our teammates really taking apart pumps and trying to beat the clock. I have to shout out to Mr. Rumbaugh, who, if you ever want to play a board game, don't play the board game against Mr. Rumbaugh, because he will try to win everything. He won't even let his kids win board games. So no, it was a great time. We had a lot of great contacts. We have some follow-ups with some utilities and counties that are going to take place, and it was all in all, it was a great event. Also, on August 31st, I was honored to be the keynote speaker at this conference. In the keynote, after briefly presenting sides on all of our operating divisions, of course, the focus was on water, wastewater. And so I've mainly spoke about the ECI wastewater treatment plant and all the upgrades. And the ECI wastewater treatment plant was featured by it was featured as a CMAR, construction manager risk contract that Deputy Furketic also led. Very expensive facility, but it meets above enhanced nutrient removal for that same space right next to that reverse osmosis water treatment plant. Anyway, so that was a great demonstration. I also mentioned our Freedom wastewater treatment plant and all that it does in Sykesville, and I could not leave out the incredible efforts of the entire MES team at Back River wastewater treatment plant. And it's not as though our colleagues from Baltimore City DPW weren't present. It was a balanced presentation, and we had a good time was had by all. But it was great to be there. As my report shows, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, DC Water, Anne Arundel County, Howard County, and many smaller utilities, including our illustrious Garrett County construction manager, board member, Mr. Ritt, was present with some of his team members, and even stayed in the same hotel as MES employees did, and we saw each other on the elevator. But lots of great leads, lots of great partnerships. Next slide. So you all may or may not know that the Maryland Clean Energy Center has been a part of MES. They are technically MES employees for the past 12 or 13 years. And as a part of the processes that have taken place over the last couple of years, they are moving towards full independence as another not independent state agency, and they will be transitioning December 31st. I've always worked with the Director Magruder on a regular basis. She is moving quickly. They will be moving under DBM as an umbrella agency for access to state health benefits. Mr. Patel, Mr. Barzell, and Ms. Crosby are all helping with the transition of their financial, procurement, and HR systems, and that will be executed smoothly on December 31st of this year. So we wish them well, and we will always partner and engage with them, especially as it relates to zero emissions and greenhouse gas mitigation. But just want to give you a notice that MCEC will be leaving our umbrellas at the end of the year. Next slide. So I guess there's no slides for this. That's fine. I continue to dedicate a significant amount of time to the implementation of the class and compensation study. This dovetails directly with lowering our vacancy rate, which is critical to us meeting our financial goals. I have to acknowledge there's a significant load on the Human Resources Department because we're both accelerating and optimizing our hiring, and we're implementing the class and compensation study, which the board approved at the end of the last fiscal year. In addition, so we presented the Environmental Specialist Career Ladder, and that'll come up again later. But in addition, I learned that the state personnel system, so we're in a very intense space when it comes to anyone involved with hiring human beings to do work. So the state personnel system has now moved to a minimum salary of $15.80, not $15 as we just approved. So just in the time since you all redid the OIT program, the state has moved past us. I will prepare a presentation, as I explained to the HR committee, an updated presentation on the differences between state compensation and MES compensation, but I will bring a recommendation to the HR committee related to that issue alone and others that I'm discovering, and the differences between our compensation and how, if we are going to remain competitive and provide staff to state agencies and to county government, that staff has to know that they are paid at least as well as, if not better than, their counterparts. Next slide. An update, so before it's asked of me, an update on Back River. Mr. Coleman will probably say more later or at another time, but at this point, we are preparing to remain engaged at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant until the end of the year. I wanted to give a shout out to Water Wastewater, particularly Mr. Skip Emler in engineering, and Mr. Al Razik. They are managing the 2 large construction contracts that you approved, and Mr. Emler's project, repairing and putting back in place primary settling tank 7 is demonstrably complete, and tomorrow should be back in service. So, Ms. Burkettick might have new information.
Yeah, well,
Maybe it's next
we're
week.
waiting, it may be next week, we're waiting for, the folks at Back River to do something with controls, I think it is,
All right, so the
yeah.
controls is-
But it's done, our part is done.
Our part is complete.
Our part is done.
So a more than $1 million contract that you approved only months ago on an emergency basis, I think 1.2 million, if I remember correctly, has been completed.
Half, the first
Half. Well, I have the second half. Primary settling tank number 2. There's 11 primary settling tanks. Not to go into a discussion on wastewater, but these 11 primary settling tanks, only 2 were operational when we started. So to have 2 operational by the end of this year, and that is still the target, is 100% increase in their capacity, as they are also doing work on other PSTs. And also, I mentioned Mr. Razik, the contractor, has been mobilizing for the cleaning of high-rate digesters 1 and 4, and that is all starting, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them. I also want to state that MES mechanics and contract mechanics will remain in place, and they continue to install equipment as it arrives from the same back order that lots of people are chains, and they will be in place. The contractor will be focusing on ACE, as our mechanics are going back to BWI to prepare for the snow events that come, and that's their primary job. But I just wanted to give you that update. There are lots of agreements being discussed and bandied about that are not of MES concern, that between the Maryland Department of Environment and the Baltimore City Department of Public Works. And there's also an ongoing federal case where there will be hearings in October between Blue Water Baltimore and Baltimore City. Again, MES is not a part of those cases, not a part of those deliberations. They just might impact our stance at the facility, and that is an unknown at this point. It continues to move, no signed agreement at this time. Next slide. We had a successful kickoff to Strategic Advance on August 26th. As I mentioned, the past 2 months, this is the connective tissue to the strategic plan that you approved at the end of the fiscal year. But I have to state that this was the first time that everyone on the outwardly facing organization chart, the top 30, 40 people by rank in this organization, had never spent time with all of them in one location, and a few other invites as well. So it was a great kickoff meeting. Right now, the IT department and government affairs departments and all the managing directors with their particular performance measures or key performance indicators, they're prepping, and the next meeting is scheduled because we have a lot going on between now and then for early December. But we will be coming back to you as soon as we have data to share, probably in the new year, for what we are seeing on our performance. This is in direct support to the goals in the BEST program, and sometimes they're linked, but it will also give us more information on how we're doing as an agency writ large. Next slide. So as the focus continues, at every executive team meeting, I ask the managing directors what's their status. I give feedback from the managing director of administration on what's the status of HR and its deliverables, and it's all critical to our performance in FY23. So we continue to enhance and monitor the hiring process. If there are rate limiting steps for those that took chemistry, or there are choke points in the process, we address them immediately, and we are getting more and more response. And I'll leave the positives to Mr. Barzil to present later. On my part, I have visited the president of Prince George's Community College. I've visited and sat with the president of Chesapeake Community College. And today, I think this afternoon, I have a call of Teams with the president of Carroll Community College. I will continue to reach out, my effort to reach out to the presidents of the community college to look at their programs and to see how we can mesh up. Then staff continues to attend any career fair that is regionally located that might help us in any way. So staff have attended the Fort Meade Recruitment Fair. That was also not just IT professionals, but also retiring military. The Howard County Career Fair, I believe that was. And then one of our engineers, Mr. Lipinski, went to the fall STEM meet and greet. I don't know if he took anyone with him at Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania. And we have a few staff that will be attending the Towson University Career Fair that is upcoming. I think there are some other, next slide. So we focus on what I've already done, not what I'm going to do, but there are already other community colleges on my calendar. And that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the agency activity report, and these are proposals for taking a look at. So some time to take a look. $700 and some down to more than $1 million. So we've got everything up and down.
Pirates and Winches weekend is over there on the shore.
Right, yeah. Right. Exactly.
Recycling.
It's a big deal in Rock Hall.
I'm not talking bad about the Eastern Shore.
All right. Hearing no proposals seen and no questions, move and come to Mr. Patel, who is our person who says that we are solvent. Solvent.
Good morning. I'll start with the labor sales as of August 31st. As all of you are aware, labor sales is our key performance indicator. It drives everything, you know. So labor sales recovers the overhead and fringe recovery, and that pays for everything that MES does. So if you can compare those bars, the red bars are the numbers, you know, are too many, but the red bars is the budget for fiscal year 23, and the blue bars are the actual for fiscal year 23. You can see that most of those red and blue bars, you know, are pretty much even. So we are on track for our budgeted labor. Environmental operations is doing much better than the budgeted, so that is the only bar where you see the big difference in environmental operations. Labor right now is $2,179,000. Our goal for fiscal year 23 is our actual labor, billable labor, should be 4% more than the fiscal year 22. We are at 4.02%, and I think, you know, we'll get even better. So we are meeting at least our goal. Those are the green bars, which is the actual fiscal year 22. So we are doing on target with labor sales. Next slide. So here we are comparing the budget versus actual as of 2 months ended. The budgeted labor sales were 35,814,000, and actual August was 5,565,000. Based on that, we projected that the full year estimate of labor sales will be 36,174,000, which at the end of the year will be 360,000 more than our budget. And it may be even better because we are concentrating on hiring and, filling up the vacancies. So, but this is a projection based on the 2 months actual accounting months. The overhead recovery, that was budgeted at 17 million. Our full year estimate is a little lower at this point by 211,000, but based on the hiring and increase in billable labor and getting new projects, I think, we will meet our budget or exceed the budget. Overhead expenses are higher, much higher than the last year, but because of two reasons. This is the first year where we have fiscal year 20, we have all the managing directors full-time in their position. We had some turnover over the last year, so the labor expenses in the overhead are higher. Also, for fiscal year 23, we paid a lot of subscription in July, which is IT subscription, which will be for the entire year. So that's why our overhead expenses are much higher, and it's about 14 million. By the end of the year, we'll catch up to that. So overhead variances, budget is 2,384,000. We're gonna have estimate of 2.4 million with 90,000 plus. Fringe recovery, fringe expenses, fringe recovery never have too much access over fringe expenses because some of those fringe expenses are unpredictable. The health insurance keeps going up, the training and all that stuff. We provide whatever training anyone needs. If it is necessary, we provide the training. So those are unpredictable expenses. So we estimate that by the end of the year, we may have 171,000 in over expenses over the recovery. Working capital is going in line. That is directly related to billable labor, so we should be doing fine with that. And the interest income is getting better. The equipment fund usually steady. So overall, our budget for full year is 3,241,000. As of actual, we have 993,000. Of course, this 2 months is not the clear indication of what's going to happen by the end because some of the expenses are front-loaded. But our full year estimate is $3,627,000. So we are already expecting $386,000 net earnings surplus on top of the budget. Next slide, please. So this is a comparison of actual as of August 2022 and as of August 2021, the previous year. And if you can see the last column where we have an increase and decrease percentage over the last year, labor sales are 4% better than the last year. The overhead recovery is better. And as I explained in the previous slide, overhead expenses are much higher because of all the executive positions are filled and the front-loaded IT subscription expenses. The fringe recovery is higher, but the fringe expenses are also higher. And the project variances is we have planned for 323,000 mainly because of the used oil. But we will do even better than that with 423,000 with some of the other projects in there. So the increase in net assets as of August is 993,000, which is probably a much higher number. It will even out by the end of the fiscal year, and it will be like increase in net assets will be it is 41% higher right now, but it will even out. The revenues are surprisingly much higher this year. As of August, we have 25 million in revenue, and last year it was 18 million. Those revenues are like a lot of it is passed through. Majority of it's passed through because of the capital project, and is the environmental dredging and environmental operations have capital projects going on. That's why our revenues are much higher this year. That's all I have. And in conclusion, we are on target. We are doing, whatever our targeted billable labor is. We are providing all the required budget for training. Whatever our goals are, the training, the safety, the fleet, we are taking care of it. And then we are still expecting that this year will be a little over our budget. Expected, our earnings will be more than the budgeted earnings. So we are in good shape.
Thank you, sir. You are indeed the king of money. We'll just leave it at money. It could be high, could be low, but it's not going to go below too low. Yeah, there we go. Great. Thank you very much. Now, Human Resources Report.
Sir, I'm going to apologize for my temporary hearing loss, hopefully temporary, and covering for some ear infections. So on our vacancy report, I run these vacancy reports on Thursday afternoons for submission to Dr. Glasson, Deputy Director for Kedek, on Friday afternoons. As of last week, we were at 7.52%, which represents a 2% drop since my tenure began at the end of July. So I think we're hopefully going to be on target for our 5% or less goal by December, the end of the fiscal year.
Good.
We're hopefully expecting some good reports this week. We've had some departures, but we've also had a substantial amount of hires. We're still waiting on several confirmations. We've also had something that we've just rolled out into our Workday, which automatically generates an exit interview for our departing employees, and we feel this will give us real-time information to help identify some of those factors that are contributing to our separations, which continue to be fairly high. But we feel like we're going to be on goal. I'm identifying all kind of roadblocks within the pipeline to streamline these. I've had this very week, I've implemented a new spreadsheet to track the exact time frame each part of the process is involved and to help move this forward. Spoken with my staff, I continue to reiterate every day we have 3 principal missions in HR, and that's fill the jobs, fill the jobs, fill the jobs. I know they're getting tired of hearing me preach it, but I'm going to continue to harp on it. I know it's a huge factor. We're especially concentrating on those billable positions. I'm trying to eliminate any barriers, whether it's moving quickly on reference checks. If just an employee doesn't get back with us in 24 hours, I'm having my staff call them repeatedly, and if we don't get any follow-up, we're contacting the manager directors. Do you have a suitable second candidate? Everything we can do to possibly speed up the process. Background check policies as well, working with legal and to actually, identify what barriers would prevent someone coming on board with us. But we're trying to accelerate everything we do in HR just to meet these goals for the agency.
Thank you, sir. And I think we have something else, Resolution 2022-091.
Yeah, this is my first time involved with that, so I don't know how that works, but it's my understanding is traditional at MES, even though it's not a holiday, that it would be granted as a holiday for all our employees. And I would propose that we move forward with that again this year to recognize their efforts and achievements.
I've seen that for the past 10 years that has occurred. Are there any questions from the board on this? All right. Hearing none, does anyone have a motion? We have a motion, I'll second it. Any other questions, anything at all? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, well, they will get their, turkey. Yep.
I'm glad to deliver that news.
A good turkey too, I'm sure. Thank you.
Leftover turkey.
All right. Ms. Wong, Human Resources Committee report. Ma'am?
Thank you, Judge. We have, the Human Resources Committee met this morning, and we have 4 or 5 matters that need to be brought to your attention. The first one relates to the performance record by MES of its best performance goals for fiscal year 22, and I believe Ms. Perketic will be able to report on that for us, if you will.
Yes, good morning. We don't have the detailed slides here like we did, but I do want to report that we met all of the goals for fiscal 22 with the exception of the training for sexual harassment prevention. Our goal was to get 90% of the staff trained by the end of the fiscal year. We got 60% trained. Although the training is ongoing, what deterred us was COVID. Basically, we shut down for the month of January and a good part of February, and when training did resume, we could only put a certain number of people in each class because we had to make sure everybody kept separated by at least 6 feet. So that kind of stopped us from meeting that goal, but like I said to the committee this morning, the training is ongoing. We are continuing to provide it not only to the people that have missed it during last year's efforts, but also as we bring in new employees, we have to get them trained as well. So that was the only thing we missed. Everything else, we met every other goal.
All right. Thank you.
Any questions or concerns with regard to the goals? Pam, if you can pull up the next slide, or Jana. The next follow-up item arising from the performance goals will be the need for the board's approval of the best funding for the incentives. And I would like to ask Mr. Patel to provide a overview of the proposed funding for the best pool incentives to the employees.
Thank you. Thank you. Per board resolution, the best pool comprised of the net earnings for that particular fiscal year. The net earnings have various components. One of the components is fringe variance. We have a fixed fringe or a fringe rate charge on our billable labor, and then we deduct the fringe expenses like health insurance, 401k, and training, all other fringe expenses. So whatever is the difference between the fringe recovery based on billable labor and the fringe expense is classified here as a fringe variance. In fiscal year 22, we had $286,000, which is pretty much in line for rest of the years. You know, sometimes it is a little higher, a little lower. The overhead variance works the same way. We take the billable labor, we have a fixed overhead percentage for fiscal year 22. We charge that fixed rate on billable labor, and that makes up the overhead recovery. From that, we pay all the overhead expenses, the headquarters expenses, the executive salary, IT, procurement. Based on our overhead recovery, deducting the overhead expenses, we get the overhead variance, which is $2.6 million, which is pretty much consistent because that is some like a working capital recovery, it is not part of the calculation of the overhead, so we have some built-in earnings in there. But other than that, it is strictly dependent on our billable labor and our overhead expense. We do not cut corners in the overhead expense, but we are mindful of it, that we have a budget for it. We monitor the budget, but we provide for enough training and all that. So that is the 2.6 million, which as I mentioned, it is in line rest of the years. I have a slide for the last one which will show you year by year. So the project variance is 1.6 million this year. This is the biggest increase in our net earnings over previous years. Usually, our project variances are the used oil, the equipment, the working capital, the equipment fund, but most of our projects are planned to be reimbursable. So we wouldn't have a big variance. You know, we will definitely build the billable labor, the prescribed fringe rate, overhead rate. But if you recall, in fiscal year 21, we have a service centers which were incurring great losses. In fiscal year 22, we turned around. We still had the service center, and we had a fixed rate for the billable labor. However, whatever the labor was charged to the service center in previous year, we scrutinized it, and with the Dr. Glass, Ms. Paketic, finance, and we try to identify and make it billable labor. So that is the main reason the project variance is so high in fiscal year 22. That is the reason the total best pool is high. This is just a one-time occurrence where we control the project variances for the service center from negative to the positive. The interest income is $19,000. So total fiscal year 2022 net earnings is $4,577,000. When we propose the approval of the best amount, and then we distribute, based on your approval, we distribute the best payments in November. Some employees leave between, for example, today and the distribution. Those money are left over in the best pool. It is not used for something else. So we have fiscal year 2021 best remaining balance of $37,000. I'm proposing to add that to our fiscal year 22 earnings, and that makes the total best pool of $4,614,000, which is almost $1 million higher than the last year. So that is mainly because of the project variances where we control the billable labor and cost in the service center and turn around from losses to the net earnings. Any questions on this so far? Okay, we'll go to the second slide. So as I discussed in the previous slide, our net earnings on the total best pool is $4,614,000. We met 98% of our goals for the best. However, this calculation and my recommendation for best, best plus, and executive incentive is based on 100% of net earnings being distributed for best program. The 2% that we didn't meet on the sexual harassment was somewhat beyond our control. However, we met all other goals, which were significant goals. So here, this calculation is based on 100% distribution of the best pool. First, from the total best pool of 4.6 million, we deduct the FICA and 401k, 325,000 and 225,000. We do not want that FICA and Medicare 401k expenses coming out from fiscal year 23. So we take that from the top, from the best pool, we deduct that, and then we distribute the rest of the amount. The rest of the best pool amount is $4,063,000, which is higher than the last year. In the next slide, I have a 5-year comparison. We'll go through that. The best amount, the 60% of the best pool will be distributed to for the best amount, and that will be distributed evenly to all the employees except executives. So the best amount is 2.4 million, and the best per employee is 4,000. The next slide will show you, but it was 3,200 last year. Best plus amount, the 35% of the best pool will be awarded to that, and it will be 1.4 million, which is significantly higher than the last year also. And executive incentive payments are 4.67%, which is 14% of the salary, which is $189,000 for 8 executives. The best plus and best amount is given to all the employees. Best is to all of the employees. Best plus is to selected employees who are high performance, but the same rules will be applied to best and best plus, where no single employee will receive more than 14% of their salary when you combine best and best plus amounts. So, as I mentioned before, because of this project variances, turning around our service centers, increasing the billable labor, we have much higher amount of best pool. This is based on employees' performance, achieving the goals, and this is like it may not happen all the time, but it is always based on the net earnings. The question was raised earlier, what we can do with this net earning. There are only two ways, we distribute for the best, or we add to our net assets. It has been done in the past where it was added to the net assets, but we recommend that we have sufficient net assets. It doesn't need to be added. We don't expect any major investments in our infrastructure or any facilities or equipment. So that's why the calculation that is based here is based on full distribution of total best pool. Any questions on this? So can you go to the next one? So while you are looking at it, here is a comparison from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 22. As you can see that the best per teammate has varied from 3,000 to 4,000 this year. The number of employees eligible for best this year is much lower, 606. They need to be off probation and have a satisfactory performance evaluation to be eligible for the best. So that's why there's only 606 employees, which results in a higher best payment plus the increased net earnings. So we're recommending best per teammate to be $4,000. And the best plus money, that is where the significant increase is. And for previous years, for fiscal year 21, 44% of the employees who are eligible for best received best plus amount. The best plus distribution is determined by managing director on the performance evaluation. Our recommendation, Dr. Glass, the management recommendation will be that based on that performance evaluation, the best plus amount, because it is significantly higher this year, be distributed to more employees. Of course, they have to take into consideration the performance evaluation. So the best plus amount has a significant increase in it. The executive incentives, most of the executives now, are permanent there, but some of them are prorated because they did not have the full fiscal year 22 as an executive, which is 14% of their salary. So the total incentive payments, as you can see, is $1 million higher, and that is, as I explained earlier, it is just probably a one-time. We may not achieve that kind of a results again. And our net assets are $30 million. For about $14 million invested in capital assets, we have unrestricted net earnings of $15 to $16 million. So we believe that it is sufficient, and we do not need to increase any of those net assets. So that's why we are recommending to distribute the whole best amount. Anyone who wants to add anything, or it's fine? All right, so here we go. We go to the previous slide, please. So now we are proposing to the board to approve whatever is the best plus executive incentives which are proposed to you.
All right, Ms. Wong, would you like to talk on this?
I don't know whether any board member has any comments or questions of, or considerations that they want the board to consider.
I have one question, like sort of speaking out loud, is the best pool for the executives is paid if they leave, but
No. So all, the executive, and same thing with a regular employee, if they are not present at the time of distribution, they do not get paid.
Well, perhaps we ought to decide whether we want to have a further talking about this, or whether the people who are on the board have no reason to not put a motion in now if they wish.
Mr. Neal, Robert, Mr. Neal, do you have any comments or questions with regard to the proposed incentive payments?
I do, but I don't want to be the skunk at the wedding. You know, this is a lot to digest, particularly in real time in a committee. I would feel more comfortable if I had a chance to review it in detail. Is there anything fatal about approving this at the next meeting?
No, we can certainly do that, because the payments, the payments will not be made until November, as I understand, or at the end of the year.
Well,
I just don't want.
Hello?
Okay, yes, I would like to add something, because this best approval will be booked on our fiscal year 22 financial statements. And we are ready to complete those financial statements, you know, because we need to provide these amounts to the auditors for them to issue the financial statements. We have a audit committee meeting coming up on October 20th, and we would like to wrap up the audited financial statements before that time. I'll be glad to answer any questions, or maybe whichever way the board decides, you know, then as long as we get that information on a timely basis.
So we would just need, to meet the audit timeframe, we would probably need to schedule another meeting of either the HR committee and the board, or the board in between, within the next 3 weeks for the next scheduled board meeting. That might be, and we don't want to have it seem like there's any pressure, and if Mr. Secretary Neal wants, you know, whatever your evaluations, or you need more time, or you have other questions, we'd be happy to address them. We just need to schedule another board meeting so that we can do this before the audit is concluded.
Well,
And
my reason for raising the issue is that I was sort of expecting a recommendation from the HR committee saying that we reviewed this and everything's cool, and formally recommending it to the full board. Meaning no disrespect, it sounds like the HR committee has sort of opened it up for board opinion, and I simply wasn't prepared to do that. I was going to listen very carefully to the committee's recommendation, and naturally defer to them because they spent more time on it than I did. But if the decision is more of a board decision, I would like a little more time.
You're right, Mr. Neal. I did punt, or the committee did punt on this one, just because of the nature of the decision that would be made. So we did not make any formal recommendation. You know, I do want to go on record as saying that, and this, again, I was struck by this. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
My screen went blank. Okay, good. My computer just went blank. I have to say I was struck this morning by the beginning of our board meeting with the Inspire Awards, as well as the report on Back River, and reminded of all of the incredible work that MES employees perform and have performed over this past year. I've seen a high degree of commitment by employees, as indicated by the Inspire awards, where they've gone way beyond the call of duty. Their work has resulted in cost savings to both clients as well as to MES. So I'm struck by those instances and the commitment I've seen and the performance I've seen by MES. On the other hand, I think because of the substantial increase in net earnings, we need to carefully evaluate how the board should approach the approval of the bonus pool, the incentive pool. I don't know whether, Mr. Coleman, we can further discuss this in our closed meeting, probably not, but certainly I would request then that the board schedule another meeting so that we can further discuss this prior to the end of August, so that the audit books can be closed for fiscal year 22.
That's the case, we've got the problem of getting it done at the right period of time. So I think we're all here. Why don't we find a time and get it done right now? Not done right now, but where we're going to and when we're going to be putting this together as a board. So I'm looking at what I've got. I think there's some place where everybody will not be, maybe, and that would be on Columbus Day, not that I'm against Columbus Day, but that would be on the 10th of October, Monday. Is there anybody who can't be at some point there? You want to start at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock? Anybody? Which is best?
I have to check with the treasurer to see if he wants to be on this call. So I can't commit today until I check with his schedule. But well, okay, we still would be able to at that point have a
Quorum.
Yeah, quorum. So is it possible that if he is not available, you would be able to talk to him or with him, or?
Yes, that's fine. I mean, I have the same concerns that Secretary Neal has. So I've always followed the thought that the committee makes a recommendation to the full board, but if that's not how that's done here, that's fine.
Okay. Well, why don't we go for 10 o'clock on Monday, the 10th? So it's 10 on 10 on Monday. Does that sound like we can do? Pam, okay on that?
Yes, I'm fine. I would like to. Oh, that would be a holiday, though, for the rest of the MES employees. Is that correct? Like Pam?
No, it's not a holiday.
MES does not receive the state benefit of the state holiday.
It is not. That is correct.
But it is for Ms. Keeling.
And I would like to add that it would be helpful to have Treasurer King, Treasurer Davis on the line when we have this meeting. So I would hope that he would be able to join us.
Indeed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know what, your motion was never seconded, so it's
Yeah.
It died with there was no second.
It died, exactly. Okay, so why don't we set for, I mean, obviously if somebody is hurt or there's a problem or whatever, we can work around that. So let's hope that doesn't happen. So we'll put it on 10 October at 10:00. And that's where we'll be, and Pam, you'll be able to set something up for us. Because I don't know that we
Will
would,
do like a 1 o'clock that day. I have something scheduled. I think I can move it, but,
is 1 o'clock better for everybody? If we can move it on down to 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock is fine.
Any problem with that?
No problem.
All right, down at 1300. Okay, 1300 on 20 October 2022. Thing says it ends at 1600. I don't think it'll be that long. No. I think we ought to just do it on a total Zooming.
That's okay.
What do you think? How many of us
That will
will be here?
Yes, that will work.
You're not here.
Yeah, so we'll put it on, we'll just go ahead and put it on Zoom or whatever thing we've got. Okay, so we're at 1300 at 22. I push the button, there it goes. Okay, so I think that will get that taken care of, and then we'll have it ready before the next meeting, next major meeting.
I'd like to follow up to answer Ms. Wong's question. Ms. Wong, you're correct. This is not the type of matter that would be eligible for discussion within a closed session of the board.
Right.
That's what I thought.
I
Thanks,
agree.
Mr. Coleman.
Yep, I think we thought
We
that
have
as
two
well.
more items from the Human Resources Committee. The first relates to a new career path for environmental specialists. And I don't know whether Marnie or someone else will be presenting on this. Or Dr. Glass.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Just like the OIT and operator classification series that we restructured and it was approved by the board of directors, we've developed an enhanced career path for the environmental specialist series that it has an emphasis on training, certifications, and education and professional growth for our environmental specialists. We've had some difficulty attracting and retaining junior level environmental specialists, and we have lost the environmental specialists at the environmental specialist and senior environmental specialist level to higher paying positions outside of MES. Some of our recommendations to the career path include establishing training, certifications, and education milestones at each of the levels, and moving the ES trainee from a grade 2 to a grade 3 to better align with other similar levels of classifications within the agency. Another thing we added was adding a new senior environmental specialist level after the senior environmental specialist, and giving another opportunity for growth for our environmental specialists at the level where we seem to be losing people. So hopefully that would give them an opportunity, because next slide, the levels after those two senior environmental specialist positions all have to be advertised as a new position due to vacancy or new growth or area of need. So we think that'll be very helpful for some of our goals. Another item that we recommend changing in the career path is making the senior lead environmental specialist and levels after that having the preference of a master's degree. And lastly, the other change would be taking the assistant section chief from a grade 8 to a grade 9. And with these changes, we're hoping that we will attract and retain more junior level environmental specialists, train our environmental specialists so that they are better prepared and able to serve our clients better, and also increase hours and minimize their vacancies.
Thank you, Ms. Stoller. Are there any questions or comments from the board of Ms. Dolner?
Well, I guess, I guess question about, the actual type of work these people would do.
It varies across the agency because most of the environmental specialists are in the environmental ops test group and the dredging group, but they do anything from, you know, at the lower levels, doing vegetation control, doing meeting summaries to support our clients, doing project management level of large environmental projects, just
Sampling.
sampling, environmental monitoring, regulatory coordination of projects. They just kind of one of the classifications that's the heart of MES.
Any other questions then?
Hearing no further questions, the committee, I think the consensus of the committee was that it made a lot of sense for the board to approve this career path that's similar to the OIT path that was created. And for that reason, the committee did approve the recommendation for the board to approve this environmental specialist career path. So with that, we'll need a motion that the judge can entertain.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have any questions or comments? If not, I think we can ask for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye. Shelley.
I hear none, therefore it is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
the
then we
next
have
item on
the next one.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the next item on the agenda is with regard to a time clock policy. Mr. Patel will be addressing this.
Many of our facilities already have time clocks, but they are manual time clocks where the old style time clock where you punch in the card, punch out the card, and somebody manually calculates the hours and then enters in the workday payroll system. We have purchased 2 time clocks on the test basis at Midshore, and those are digital time clocks, which is controlled by the employee's ID card. So that has digital time stamp on when the employee clocks in, when the employee clocks out, when the employee clocks out for meals, lunch breaks, and then clocks in again. So this is digital record keeping of in-out times for non-exempt employees at designated facilities where this time clock policy and the time clocks will be applicable. Time clock data will be used for or integrated into Workday. So we are still working on it. As a matter of fact, it is in the pilot study now that based on this digital time clock, the data will be integrated in Workday and there will be no manual intervention required. Employees will be paid based on the data that is entered in Workday. Either it is entered directly through integration from the digital time clock or manually. There will be some cases where an employee forgets to punch in or punch out. So in those cases, the supervisor will, with the approval of the supervisor's manager, make necessary corrections for instances like failure of an employee to clock in or out. The supervisor or Workday timekeeper shall inform the employee of any corrections or changes to the recorded times. So hopefully everything will be automatic because employee's card is used. They know what time they clocked in, what time they clocked out, and that is the time they will be paid by. But if there are circumstances like that, a manual intervention will be done before it is entered into Workday. The actual time clock digital records will not be changed. It will maintain as is. It's just prior to entering the Workday, that modification will be made. And employees will be paid based on their time submission in Workday. we have looked at all the possible scenarios of errors, and we have built-in provisions for it where the employee will be informed if the time clock time and the workday time to be paid is different. There's a supervisory approval, there's a supervisor's manager approval. This is just automating the time clock and payment process. It will not be applicable to every facility of MES. It will be on a case-by-case basis where the use of this digital time clock is the most beneficial.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Patel.
Vaughn?
Based on the committee's, the HR committee's meeting this morning, we do recommend the board's approval of this time clock policy.
All right,
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval, although it's wistfully nostalgic. We're saying goodbye to time clocks. Just another reminder that time marches on.
Indeed. Every now and then it gets to where it's going to. Okay. Is there a motion now? I believe we are.
Yeah, we have a motion, we need a second.
All right, I'll second it. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 And it is now approved. Thank you. I think we have one more.
Judge, I believe this one we don't need to have considered by the board at this time, unless,
That is correct.
Sean, you can correct me, but I think it's still under review and we'll be getting back to the board on the background check policy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we were hopeful that, given the breadth of experience of the board members, if they had the opportunity to review this policy and have suggestions for us as we work towards coming up with a reasonable background check policy, that would be very helpful. And if you have comments or suggestions, and you can send them either to me or to Dr. Glass.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. I think that just about concludes for the H&R people, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. I want to say that we get from Song, I don't know how you can do it, but you do such wonderful work. Thank you very much. I think everybody in the board and around here just says thanks to you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
All right. Next matter. Updates.
Move on to the side, so my back is it.
Don't worry, we'll take care.
Good morning, everyone, members of the board, and my MES colleagues who are watching me, and some of you will critique me later today. If you were fading, nothing will wake you up more than the interesting topics of safety and environmental compliance. I am here to talk about today. So a little bit about me first. My name is Erin Lanigan. I'm the Chief of Safety and Environmental Compliance. I've been here at MES for 13 years now. This past June was my 13th year anniversary. I started here right out of law school. I went to Vermont Law School, where I studied environmental law was my focus, energy law also, and came here for an internship, unpaid, and never left. Now I get paid. So that's a good thing. I slowly moved up here as an intern. After that, I took bar. I'm a licensed Maryland attorney. I'm a member of the Environmental Law Section Council. The Environmental Law Section now. I served on the council for 11 years. And I moved up from intern to an environmental compliance associate with the environmental compliance group. And then I also served at that time as the legislative liaison at one point here. I came here to work on my master's, which I earned while I was here in environmental legislative policy, also from Vermont Law School. And then I became the chief of environmental compliance. And in 2017, under the McGrath administration, they decided to merge the Safety and Environmental Compliance divisions. You can go to the next slide, Pam. So that's where we came up with the entire division right now, which is very small. We do have a small group, but we're administrative support. We support all of our operating groups in our department here. We're technically called a division. I often refer to us as a group, a team, staff, us. So this is my group here listed on our tree, and I'm going to talk about all of the things that we do in our group and our current numbers and statistics that we monitor and that we report on. So me, myself, I've worked here for the Harkins administration, the McGrath administration, and now the Glass administration. I'm happy to say I love my job. I love what I do. MES gives me lots of interesting things to work on. There's really never a dull moment. So we're going to talk, I'll probably bore people with the amount of things that we cover in our division. Next slide, Pam. These are really our major rules in safety and environmental compliance. Number one is responding to emergencies. This is usually an employee calling up. So every week I get a call from an employee. Not necessarily every day, but every week I get a call from an employee with some sort of issue or a fender bender that they were just in, and they need to know what do they do, right? So my first priority here at MES is answering my phone calls and responding to our employees that are out and about for the day looking for some sort of guidance. The other thing that we do here on a frequent basis, every week, we do some sort of safety inspection and environmental compliance audit. We also manage all of the workers' compensation injury claims, so I myself know the details of every injury that occurs to our employees throughout the year. We report on that, and I'll get into some of those numbers here in my presentation today. We monitor and track all of the vehicle accidents that occur. We have lots of employees working throughout the state. We have close to 300 projects that you can drive up to and see, and those employees are driving around throughout the day. So we do have from time to time of vehicle accidents that occur. We also now track and monitor data on equipment accidents, and we do a lot of employee training. So we cover all sorts of topics. We have a library of topics that we train employees on. We do it through our Safety and Environmental Compliance Committee, but we also hold some routine classes that we train employees on, such as CPR. Today, 2 of our staff are at the Hartford County Solid Waste Facility doing training our employees on a CPR class. We train on confined space entry, hazardous material handling, energy topics such as lockout, tagout. We do all that training internally. And from time to time, we work with contractors that give external training. So we're not the experts in all subjects here internally. So if it's something like heavy equipment operation and we need some additional training, that's a frequent contractor-provided training. But we still track all of our employees' training records, certifications, and this area of training, tracking our training and reminding employees when they're due for training is now being developed into our Workday data program. So that's the next phase of Workday. This year we're working heavily with IT this fiscal year on getting all of this reporting incorporated through Workday. So it's more automated. We can do a lot with that data more efficiently. And we conduct internal investigations in our group. So when I first started here, it was 2009, and the biggest investigation that we were frequently doing, frequent investigations, was allegations of employees falsifying. We still do get that from time to time, and we have a responsibility to look into all those allegations. I'm happy to say the falsification, the amount of employees that have been found to actually falsify records, the automatic termination when that is discovered, has significantly reduced over the 13 years that I've been here, and I think it's speaks to the efficiency of the environmental compliance program for that. So we also do investigations pretty much any time when it's a failure to follow regulatory or permit requirements. Next slide. I won't go into the details of everything listed on this slide, but I couldn't fit all that we do on one, so a bunch of what we do is listed here. A major focus when we merged the Safety and Environmental Compliance divisions was focusing on the agency's written programs. So last year, one of our goals, our best goals, was to complete a written program for every facility that we complete lockout tagout at, and that's the control of hazardous energy, really. So prior to merging the divisions, we really didn't have a good handle at the agency level on a lot of our written programs. We revamped our confined space written program. This fiscal year, one of the best goals is for facilities with emergency response plans to update those plans. So luckily, we're getting to a good point here at the agency level where we do have a lot of written programs now in place, and now our focus is really on making sure employees know what those program requirements are and are following them. But we do a bunch of other things. We really try to weigh in our staff on the day-to-day operations. So how does someone perform their job? What is their job throughout the day? How many jobs are they performing? And how do they do that safely and meet environmental requirements? Slide. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into some of our data here that we track. So these are our employee injuries, and I'll explain what we're looking at here. Employee injuries, so on-the-job injuries that occur while working, we report on in a calendar year basis. So my numbers here presented are on a calendar year basis, but we can track it really any way we want to, quarterly, fiscally, but right now what I'm showing today is the calendar year numbers. So we went back to 2018, pre-pandemic, really. And we've seen a significant reduction in the number of injuries. These are real numbers. So 113 actual on-the-job injuries occurred in calendar year 18. So far for calendar year 2022, we've had 41 on-the-job injuries. You'll notice I like to look at, for my quick reference, the total injuries per month. And that's also on a downward trend over the last couple calendar years. And then we have injuries that will result in medical. So we're pretty lucky here. A lot of our injuries are fairly minor, and a little more than half every calendar year we see result in a medical visit. So we have employees that go for medical. Then we have employees that went for medical and need something beyond just first aid. So they can't just get a Band-Aid put on or something cleaned up and return to work. And that's what we're left with for our injuries that we report to OSHA. Those are OSHA reportable injuries. That's a legal requirement that we fulfill every year for the agency in our group. And again, looking at the sectors, the industrial sectors that we operate in, the water wastewater sector, the solid waste sector, the heavy equipment operation sector, we have a fairly low number of OSHA reportable injuries that occur each year. But those are the ones that we really want to pay attention to too, because it means typically that an employee is either on modified duty, can't work to full capacity, or is out for a time period on an injury claim. Okay, next slide. So again, this is just graphed differently. The dark bar is our total number of injuries. The light blue bars are our injuries that an employee goes to medical. And then our green bars are the OSHA reportable injuries. So the goal is the OSHA reportable should be your lowest here. When we merged the Safety and Environmental Compliance divisions, we also really focused on encouraging employees to report their injuries regardless of if they go to medical or not. There's lots of reasons we want to encourage that. One is that an injury today might not hurt you so much, but down the road it could, so we want to make sure we have a claim in for our employees. But also, I worked pretty closely with IWIP, who's our workers' compensation insurance provider, and they really encourage reporting non-medical injuries because it's good for our overall rate. It's really good to show that we're working to get employees to no lost time is what we're working towards. Okay, next slide. And this is what attributes to an injury. This is our percentage of what we found for the total calendar year 2018 until present right now. So if you combine the sting, bites, and ticks, which we do categorize ticks separately, you'll notice 14% of our injuries are due to tick bites. That's because we have people working outside, lots. But if you combine the sting bites and the tick bites, you get the same percentage as our other category that contributes to the most injuries, slips, trips, and falls. They're both 23%. I think my math is right. But that's the bulk of our injuries, our slips, trips, and falls, and some sort of biohazard, we call them, but insect bite. And that's because, again, most of our employees are out and about throughout the day. They're boots on the ground. They are in Western Maryland. They tell me they have to be part billy goat. So it's not surprising that we do have a lot of slips, trips, and falls that cause an injury. And we work really hard with those facilities where they have all sorts of different terrain employees are working on, or it's a high tick population area, to try to do as much preventative measures as we can to prevent these injuries from occurring. Okay, next slide. Similar to the injuries, the workers' compensation injuries, we also monitor and track vehicle accidents. We do report on vehicle accident numbers throughout the year, mostly on a fiscal year basis. So your data here is for the fiscal year and not the calendar year. Again, we're on a somewhat downward trend. We'll probably be similar to, it's hard to tell for FY23 so far, but hopefully the goal is to decrease from the previous year. That's always our goal. Our goal is 0. If we ever get there, I guess I'll retire. But that's the goal. And luckily, our vehicle accidents also are very minor. They're what I call fender benders for the most part. So I think Hammett had told me we have over 300 vehicles throughout the agency. And when you think about our primary employees' day-to-day jobs, they're driving around, a lot of them. We have people that show up all day and operate equipment or do things at one job site, but the typical water wastewater operator, for instance, they're driving around throughout the day, usually to at least 5 facilities throughout the day. So that increases their chance of being involved in a vehicle accident. We're very lucky that most of those vehicle accidents do not result in an injury, right? The past 2 fiscal years, only 1 total for the whole fiscal year has resulted in an injury as well. So our rates are pretty low. Again, just graphed differently, vehicle accidents over the fiscal years trending downwards and with an injury. And then next slide, Kim. Thank you. This is what, over the fiscal years that we've shown here, has attributed to the vehicle accidents occurring. A significant number of our vehicle accidents occur when our employees are backing up. Yes, we have a problem backing up here. But we recognize that we have a problem, and we continue to focus on that with employee training. Two or 3 years ago, actually, I think it was before the pandemic, a BEST goal was every supervisor had to observe all of their employees that drive backing up. We had an obstacle courses set up all over the state. They had to watch them backing up and grade them, critique them on how they backed up. Still, we have a significant portion of employees that hit something when they're backing up. And so we try to figure out from these data and trends that why? Why is that occurring? How can we reduce it, right? So we incorporate that into the training topics that we cover. For instance, this period for employee training, we are covering driving and cell phone use, right? So distracted driving is a popular topic that we train on often. So if there's any questions about these numbers, I can answer them for you, hopefully. And then after we merged the divisions, we kind of started recognizing a little later after merging that, hey, no one's really been tracking the equipment accidents that occur here. And we have a lot of heavy equipment and heavy equipment operators that's their daily job. So we began tracking our equipment accidents, and We do have some information for previous fiscal years, but it's not that helpful when we're looking at comparison purposes. So you'll notice we had a significant decrease in the equipment accidents from fiscal 21 to fiscal 22, and I do like to think that that's because we focused every time we got a report in FY21 of an equipment accident on why did that occur, and we tried to pull the employees for retraining, and it's led to a little bit of a reduction, I like to think, here. So now we do have lots of data on our equipment accidents as well. Another big area that my team works with is regulatory inspections. Our most common type of regulatory inspection, so those sectors that I mentioned previously, all those sectors that we work in here at MES, they are regulated sectors, right? So we are a regulated agency, and we have to follow the laws and requirements for the sectors that we work in. The most common type of inspection that we get is inspected by MDE. Those occur pretty frequently. The regulatory inspections are the real amount of inspections that we had each fiscal year, and that includes any regulatory agency. For instance, Tim Ford's group just had a inspection from MDE at EPA, at one of the landfills. That number is included in this fiscal year's inspection numbers. But MDE frequently inspects our wastewater and water treatment plants and our landfills. They get inspected every month, our landfills. So we monitor all that information, the inspection reports, what we're being cited for, any violations that are occurring. I weigh in frequently on consent order negotiations and enforcement actions that occur here at the agency. I think there is a perception that we have motion inspections frequently. I'm hoping I'm not going to curse myself now by saying this, but motion inspections there's no real way to tell when a motion inspection could occur, but they do occur fairly infrequently here at MES. Our last motion inspection occurred the day before the pandemic shut down. It started, and it was at the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant in 2020, and it lasted a significant period before that inspection closed out. That was our last motion inspection. And we do receive citations here at the agency. For MOSH inspections, we do not usually have to pay a monetary fine. MDE inspections, we pay. We do pay monetary fines throughout the year to MDE if we are in a violation situation. Next slide. So our goal for my team and my staff is to conduct safety inspections and environmental compliance audits. And the whole goal of those audits is really to stay one step ahead of the regulatory agencies. We are a self-policing agency. That's the heart of our environmental compliance program, is that we're going to monitor ourselves and correct issues when we find them. But the common inspection and audit findings that I have listed here are really the same things that the regulators find and that we find in-house. Housekeeping is probably our #1 thing that I focus on, that we do tell our employees, hey, you've been at this, some of our employees have been working at their facilities and offices for over 20 years. So, you know, you have a tendency to collect clutter. And I like to say I'm like the principal's office or the mom and dad here of the agency. So we often go in and say, how about a broom? Right? How about we get rid of these old documents that have been here and are growing old? So we really focus on housekeeping here, but we often find minor things, but things that matter, like eye wash station inspections. We work with a lot of hazardous chemicals, blocked exit ways, and reporting errors. We try to correct those before they're found in a regulatory inspection. Next slide. And I'm going to close my presentation today with the Safety and Environmental Compliance Committee. Prior to the divisions merging in 2017, it was just a safety committee. And when the divisions merged and I became the chief for safety and environmental compliance, we took a look at the committee and said, it's time to hit a refresh button, which we did. We brought in some new members onto the committee, and I think really for the first time, we told every member who they represent here. So the idea is the committee members, we have 25 right now currently serving. They are typically at the management level here at the agency, so they help operate facilities, right? And they manage employees typically. So they're at the management level, they're familiar with day-to-day operations, and the typical committee member represents approximately 30 members for each team. So that's give or take a little bit, but their job is to then go back after we meet once every 2 months, and we have a set of topics that we cover every 2 months. Current events, it's trends that we're seeing and all that data for accidents and injuries especially. We cover training topics every 2 months period. So their job as a committee member is to go back and communicate with the employees that they represent. And they do a lot of training with those 30-so employees that each of them represent. They also help a lot at our committee level. We do all sorts of things like we review our project permits. They bring to our attention new work that's going on, so we review what do we need to do this new work. They voice safety concerns. They assist with conducting drills. I'm really proud of our committee members for stepping up to the plate and really taking on a lot of extra work in some cases, and caring about how we do our jobs on a daily basis. So I'm happy with our committee changes that we've made. Next slide, yeah. And I'll just give some examples of things that we cover out of the committee. So a big role is they help with training, right? They really know their employees and see their employees, and a lot of our training is still face-to-face, even post-pandemic. Another role that we do is we form subcommittees to review individualized type of work. So our last subcommittee was the glyphosate subcommittee. Very interesting, but it was a result of the Roundup lawsuits that were going on, the Roundup pesticide product. We have a lot of employees that do work with pesticide management here at the agency, so we decided, okay, we're still working with this type of product. We need to figure out how to do that safely. So we came up with procedures out of that subcommittee for how to do that. Currently, if you want to go to the next slide, Pam, I don't know if my pictures made it in. Yes. We are training all of our employees this upcoming 2-month period on the spotted lantern fly. These photos were taken by Chase Clark, one of our, I forget his level here, but he's in the central region, ESS in the central region. You probably know him because he's had some Inspire Awards received recently, but we met as a committee and we talked about the spotted lantern fly, and a week later he said, they're all over the place out here in central Maryland, and this is one of our facilities here. So it is an invasive species, and we have to train our employees on how to help the environment rid ourselves in Maryland here of this invasive species. But we cover things that we find are a problem frequently. We're also covering inspecting eye wash stations this next 2-month period. And like I mentioned before, the use of cell phones when driving. So that's kind of our team in a nutshell, and what we do and what we track and trend. As I said, I'm really happy to work here at MES. I feel I've been enriched because of it. Lots of great mentors have left or are still here for me, and I just think it's always interesting, whatever it is that we're working on here. Any questions for me?
Oh, well, I think you've covered it from many parts of what you do, and I think it's important that they be done exactly the way you're doing it. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to mention some interesting facts very quickly. Our employees drove 2,100,000 miles, and those are recorded miles in workday, so actual miles may be more than that, more than 2 million miles. We operate 321 cars and trucks, which is like average 7,000 miles per year. We operate 277 off-road equipments and 19 watercraft. So considering all that, the safety record is very good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we are now ready from Ms. Crosby. You still there?
Yes.
All right, well, it's your turn, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Let's start with item 1. It's for the ECI MCI JC Water Treatment Program. These are water treatment chemicals. The awarded contractor is Nalco Company. This was a 3-year contract. This is a change order to that contract in the amount of $126,077.39. The total revised contract amount now is $297,585.37. The MVE goal is 6%. The actual participation on the contract is 8.9%.
All right, any questions from the board? Hear none. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
All right, I'll second it. Anyone else have anything to say with it? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye. Heller.
All right, therefore it is approved. Then on to the next one.
Yes. Item 2 is for our technical and environmental service. This is a task to out rehabilitation service. This is from the AE shortlist contract. The contractor is Soil and Land Use Technology, Inc. The amount of the contract was originally $124,525. This is a change order in the amount of $92,574. The total revised contract amount for this contract is $277,747.
All right. Any questions from any of the board? All right. If not, is there a motion to approve? I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And it's been seconded. Second, thank you very much. Anything else? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Heller.
And, all right. Anyone not in agreement? Therefore, we are ready to approve that one. Thank you very much.
And item 3, for the Rocky Gap State Park Sanitary Sewer System Improvements. The awarded contractor is Excavating Associates, Inc. The amount of the contract is $1,275,023, and the MVE goal on this contract is 8%.
Any questions from anyone on that? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, I'll second it. Or, well, it's been seconded, okay. Anyone else have any comment? All right then, all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 All right, therefore it is approved. Thank you. Next.
Okay. Item 4 is for the Montgomery County Yard Trim Composting Facility. This is L-150 wheel loader, purchased from Sourcewell, a cooperative purchasing contract, in the amount of $445,180.
All right, any questions on this one? My only question is, I'd love to have it to clean up the house. I couldn't afford it. All right.
Unless Montgomery County to lend it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion? All right. Anyone second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All those, any other questions? None, all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Stated.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Heller.
It is approved. Next.
Hey, item 5 is for the Pierce Creek Support Service. This is an AE shortlist contract. The contractor is Anchor QEA. This is a change order to the original contract. The change order is in the amount of $101,816.05, with an MVE goal of 29%.
Anyone have any questions on this? hearing none, is there, have a motion on this one? I'll move it
So
again. Moved by me.
Second.
All right. Any other questions? If not, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, therefore it is approved. Number 5, number 6, please.
Item 6, for the leachate pre-treatment facility upgrade at Brown Station Road Sanitary Landfill. These were requests for proposal. The awarded contractor is EA Engineering, Science and Technology, Inc. The amount of the contract is $1,014,817.72 with an MBE goal of 32.2%.
Any questions on anyone with regard to this one?
I have a question.
Right, hearing
Why,
none.
if,
Yes, go ahead.
Judge, yeah, the EA, it's being, actually, I have to abstain from this, so I'm going to withdraw my question. I have to abstain, so ignore my question.
I'm gonna make an observation. Oh, okay. Sorry, Mr. Witt.
All right, just when you're scoring these firms, is price weighed in, or is it strictly the capabilities of the firm?
On the request for proposal, the technical portion of the evaluation is done first, and then price is open. So it's really the technical proposal that gets the selection, and price is not a determining factor.
It seems odd we're awarding it to the firm that's the most expensive.
Can let Mr. Ford weigh in?
Sure. So, this is unique in that this is a design contract. So any A&E contract, the evaluations are based on technical merit, including relevant background, experience with the work, methodology, reference projects, and the schedule. So we, the technical review committee is not aware of what the price proposals are. Those are kept separate. And in this particular case, we also followed up our technical review with oral presentations. E&A's engineering proposal was significantly, technical proposal was significantly better than other presentations, had more technical merit than the other presentations. Because of the nature of the work, again, this is an engineering design. There are potential pitfalls in terms of awarding design contracts solely based on price. Experience and expertise and methodology have to weigh more so than just price. In this particular case, the scorings were significantly different on the technical merits of the proposal, and so they outweighed the weighting on the price proposal. The county was part of the evaluation, and they are in agreement with the award recommendation. That makes sense.
Any further questions on this one? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve? So approved, second? I'll second it. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. In favor?
Aye.
And Judge,
Aye.
I'll be abstaining. Judge, I'll be abstaining. This is Marion.
All right, we still have then, we still have 5? Yeah, we're still on. Okay, then, it'll be approved. All right, Ms. Crosby, where are we now? Number 7.
Item 7, for the Montgomery Yard trim hauling. The contractor's consolidated commercial service. The original contract amount was $582,525. This is the second change order to the contract in the amount of $680,000. And the revised total contract amount now is $1,280,075. And the MVE goal on the contract is 30%, and the contractor is currently achieving 22%.
All right. Any questions from the board on this? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move approval.
I'll motion it. All right, we have two. Further matters on this one? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Aye. Keller.
All right, that was item number 7. I think we're at the last one on number 8. Is that right, Ms. Crawford?
Number 8 is for our finance division. This is the purchase of 9 Dodge trucks and equipment. The awarded contractor is Chriswell Automotive. The amount of the contract is $425,000.
Under Baltimore County's contract.
Right.
I see.
Yes.
Okay.
It is very hard
Right,
to,
piggyback contract.
yeah, it is very hard to find the trucks. So this contract under Baltimore County opened up for a few days, so we, getting the authorization to buy those 9, we have put it on hold. If we do not approve it, then they will be sold to somebody else, but it is very hard to get hold of any truck. So we are getting Dodge Rams now, but we are still waiting for F-150. When that opens up, we'll probably buy some more.
Well, and you're getting them in boxes, which is good, rather than one at a time.
Right. And under Baltimore County contract or state contract, we get a good price.
Yeah.
Partly paid by me, but that's another story. All right. But I can't recuse on that one. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Although, all right. Any questions on this one?
Move approval.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And second. And all those in favor now, please raise your hand saying aye.
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 Hearing none, that is item number 8, which then concludes for Ms. Crosby. Thank you very much, ma'am. As always, here are the procurement notifications that we are looking at under the $200,000 range. Anyone takes a look at that for a moment? Do you have any questions on those? Or amounts? Well, we'll have a motion on that, but we've looked at it. Do you have any questions? If not, then we'll move on to legal report. Adjutant General. Well, I was there once.
I've changed services.
Exactly.
There's a couple matters that we'll be discussing in closed session. I did want to let you know that, well, now starting with the board meeting we'll have in a few weeks, the agenda is going to look a little bit different because there is a change to the Open Meetings Act that was adopted by the General Assembly and goes into effect on October the 1st that requires a bit more information to be included in the agendas that are made available to the public. So Pam and I are working on that with some other folks in the agency to make sure we're in compliance with that going forward. And that's all I've got for open session.
All right. Thank you. And I think that just about closes things. Is there any other matters of business anyone wishes to be heard? The next motion, the next meeting is Thursday, 20 October 2022 at 09:30. See you a little bit earlier than.
Well, yeah, but there'll be other meetings scheduled. So that was before the board's decision to meet.
Indeed.
So, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
You didn't know that beforehand.
Understood. All right. So we are now proceeding with closed session. So the board intends to meet in closed session for the following reasons as permitted under Section 3-305B1 and 912 of the General Provisions of Articles of Annotated Code of Maryland, to discuss an employment agreement for a specific individual employee service, and to discuss an investigative proceeding on actual or possible criminal conduct. Is there anyone on the board who objects to meeting in closed session such as this? Hearing none, if a board does make an objection, certainly we would put it in, but there has been none in this case from the board. Anyone else viewing the meeting objects to the board meeting in closed session? If so, you should contact MES through its website at www.menb.com. All right. Yes. Is there a motion for closed session in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
And second. All right. Anyone have any question with regard to it? If not, please, if you are in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Therefore, while still in open session, we will announce the board meeting will adjourn after closed session, will not return to the open session. All right. Shall we proceed, Pat?